Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Jubin, and in this episode 6 of Azure Databricks series, today we are going to look at Databricks SQL, um, where SQL warehouses, queries, and dashboard built for analysts. So if you are more comfortable with SQL than Python, this episode is especially for you. So let's get started. So what is Databricks SQL? And is it different than normal SQL? And so I would say that it's pretty much the same, but it has four main parts, and together they replace the need for separate BI tool or business intelligence tool in many cases. It provides SQL warehouses, SQL Editor, and dashboards and alerts. So SQL stands for Structured Query Language, and SQL warehouses are compute built specifically for fast concurrent SQL queries and optimized differently than general purpose compute we use for notebooks. And so we are going to create one today in our live demo. And SQL Editor is a live browser-based editor where you write and run queries, and you do not need a notebook. But there is this is a more familiar and analyst friendly interface. And dashboard is when you turn the query results into chart and share them with your team. So this is also what we are going to do in our demo. And alerts is when you can notify automatically when a query result crosses a threshold. So here is a path that an analyst follows, and from table to a dashboard, and this is the everyday workflow we are building toward. And step one is the Unity catalog where your data lives. It is already organized and secured, and we are going to cover Unity catalog in the episode 7. Step two is the SQL warehouse. So the compute that where your query runs. Without this, there is nothing that actually your SQL can execute. And then you run your query in the SQL editor, and dashboard is where you turn those results into a dashboard that others can see. So without needing to run the query itself. And then this is the part where of the Unity catalog where we have the user management, metastore, access control, data policies are all defined. We're going to look at in more detail in the next episode. So when you create a SQL warehouse, you choose between two types. The right choice depends on your situation. And the first one is the serverless SQL warehouse, which starts in seconds, no need to wait. Databricks manages the infrastructure for you, or I should say Azure will manage it in this case. And it's best for everyday ad hoc queries. And then there is a classic SQL warehouse where it runs in your own cloud, or you can also host it on Azure cloud, and you can have more control over the sizing and networking, and it's good for specific compliance needs. And but I would say the serverless option is best for everyday ad hoc queries, and you choose classic when you need more control when instead of being locked on into environments. So good fit depends on specific compliant need. When you have your serverless might not meet your organization's requirements. So let's jump to the demo. We already have our demo workspace that we created in previous videos. And now uh, when we come to Databricks, we navigate on the left pane, and you have to notice SQL. So previously we were working on our workspace where we created some worksheets for our some notebooks. And now in the SQL, we go to SQL warehouses, and I'll quickly show how to create a SQL warehouse if you haven't created one. Uh, so you give SQL warehouse as a some name like test SQL warehouse, and then you can choose 2x small uh, and configure it for auto stopping. So 2x1 will configure, and it's definitely perfect for our video purposes and our series purposes. If you choose a larger one, it will take some few minutes to configure and deploy, but I'm choosing 2x small. And then scaling, you can choose one cluster. We don't need many. And you can choose if you have a pro plan as a pro or classic if you want to manage it. Uh, and you can learn more about the warehouses and cloud vendor quotas over here in the documentation over here. It's pretty detailed, and similarly for the VM families. So I'm going to choose serverless, and then there are some advanced options as well. Like you can provide some tags, and we definitely want Unity catalog because we're going to look at this in the next episode. And then channel is what you have your when you introduce new features and you want to minimize the disruption. So you want to preview it or you want to keep it current. So I have already created my warehouse, but once you click on create, it will create a new warehouse for you. So I have already created serverless starter warehouse. And if you have created one, the type will show as max and the size that was 2x small. It was serverless. You can edit it. You can look at the query history. Already ran some queries. Go back to the warehouse. You can set up alerting, and then you have your dashboards that will show up here. You have your queries and you have your SQL editor. So once your serverless is started, you can also stop it also, and it will auto stop after 10 minutes. So looking at the details, you can look at connection details. You can connect these different warehouse tools. You can look at monitoring about the infrastructure monitoring. And then let's go to the overview, and let's go to the query editor. So this is what's the query. This is the query editor, and I'm going to remove it for now. So if you remember in episode 5, in the previous episode, we created an orders table. So we will select from orders table, and we're just going to limit this by 10, even though we have only 3 records. So once you run this query, it's going to ask whether you want to attach this to your selected uh, cells or this warehouse. So I'm going to automatically launch. I'm going to start and attach this run. And this shows you your the most recent version of the orders table. And now we are going to create a visualization. So click on this plus icon to create a visualization. I am going to create a line chart and choose a column as order ID and status of the order. It's not showing any results, but let's see. Order, customer name. How about a bar chart? So this does show some results, and I'm going to save this. So now the visualization shows up here as well. And now we are going to pin this chart to the dashboard. So add to the dashboard. So order status, customer order status chart, and create. So it will show up on my dashboards here. Now it's going to load the data. Okay, and as the order status is getting changed, it will show, it will update this chart. So that's it for this demo. And we're doing a quick recap. So Databricks SQL gives analysts a familiar SQL editor interface. You can create dashboards, you can have warehouses all inside the same workspace that you have been using. And the flow is that data in Unity catalog, run a query, build a dashboard. And serverless warehouses starts in seconds. Classic warehouses give you more control, pick based on your needs. And that's it for this tutorial. And see you in the next video. And if you have enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. It really helps the series reach more people. And in the next video, we will look at the Unity catalog and data governance.